So, Caylee, well, firstly, welcome to Dublin.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's my first time.
So, you're obviously over playing C2C. You're performing as part of Introducing Nashville with Tyler Braden and Alana Springsteen. You played London on Friday. Last night you were in Glasgow. Tell me about your C2C experience.
Man, the last time I was here is 2020. And right before my last week of shows in London, the travel ban was put in place. And we were rushed back across the pond in fear of getting stuck somewhere we didn't know, folks. And I was afraid of getting stuck away from my dog. But anyways, it was kind of a heartbreak because I didn't really get to experience fully C2C. I was grateful for the little shows I got before, but this year I feel like is a new, fresh start for me in C2C. I get to see familiar faces that I saw in Berlin and Amsterdam last time, and I'm getting to just meet so many new people. Getting to go to Scotland, getting to go to Ireland. I've never been to either of those, and they've always been on my bucket list. So it's pretty cool when your work brings you to a dream location, you know?
For sure. Do you know, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, with the red hair, you look more Irish than me.
Oh, thank you. No, my grandmother is redheaded. And on that side, there is some Scottish and Irish influences or ancestry.
So tell me about your gorgeous new single, All or Nothing, right? So you co-wrote this with Topher Brown and Thomas Fincham. You co-produced it with the legend, Dan Huff,
Yes.
right? Tell me how the song came together and, I mean, just what you learned from working with Dan Huff.
This is an odd trick, but if you're a songwriter, try it sometime. What I did was I found a couple songs I really loved, and I didn't take anything from the song, but I got the beat in my head. It's the song Vegas by Doja Cat. Get it. That melody, or not melody, the BPM. I came in and I said, I want something at that BPM. And Topher Brown, he had a bass, and I said, play it on bass. We never write on bass. And Thomas Fincham is one of my favorite human beings. When I went through a house fire in 2017 and wrote a song called Forged in the Fire with him, he was one of my best friends that got me through it. So I already have this immaculate songwriter in the room. I have this great instrumentalist and writer, Topher and Thomas. And I mean, honestly, when it comes to love, I truly am all or nothing. I don't like fooling around. I like finding someone and giving them my all, and that's what I'm wanting and expecting and manifesting. So the song, I want to write some music, you know, that helps people through hard times, and I also want to write some songs that when the girls want to go out, they know what they want to play and they want to listen to. So that one is really a go get after it song for me.
Did you ever do any musical theatre just because of the way you belt?
No, I wish I did, but I went to a school where we didn't even have enough people to do a drama club. One act, and I was the only one that showed up one year, and, well, they didn't do it. But I wish I had. I just try to be melodramatic in my life to make up for that time lost.
Tell me about your breakout single, Family Tree, and that was a write with Gordy Sampson and Troy Verges.
I love that you know all these writers, and you're not looking at anything. You care about the music.
I do, and see when you're interviewing so many artists over 3 days, like my brain is about to explode.
I can't even imagine. My brain is mashed potatoes.
It's like a photographic memory, they call it, you know?
Oh, well, God bless you for having that. I wish I had a tenth of it. But yeah, I wrote it with Gordy Sampson and Troy Verges, which if you don't know, they're big writers in Nashville. And they wrote Jesus Take the Wheel with Hillary Lindsey for Carrie Underwood. I had just been signed recently at that time. This was 2016-17, right before my house fire. And I wrote this song with them. I was sent in there as a target write. Sometimes as a staff writer, you have to go in and try to write for someone else. And we were trying to write for Carrie Underwood. And I wrote the song, and I sent it in, and I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. It's kind of edgy. It's all about your family, though, and we love everybody. I think she'll like this. And my publisher said, do you think Carrie is going to say High School High? And I was like, oh, maybe. And I would. And, you know, it's one of those beautiful things where trying to write for her that day made me push myself and to be vocally, you know, fun like her. And but I got to tell the story of my mama and daddy and my cousins and my Uncle Ed and my grandmama, and it's really fun. I made it with one of my friends on a $500 demo budget, which is pretty cheap in music, but I learned so much from producing that with a friend of mine, getting to write that with now people that are friends with me, but big hit writers that very much intimidated me the first time I walked in. But it is wild how that song about my family has taken me to so many different places to meet new people. And I met some folks last night in Scotland that feel like family. So I'm hoping I find some new family here.
So tell me about Just Friends, because it starts like a classic country song, and then very quickly it turns into something like Weezer or Paramore would do. Whose idea was that? Was that your idea?
Yeah, I had written the first verse, and I told the boys I wanted it to go into the second part, and I'd started the you should have never come over, that part. The coolest thing about it is I love Easter eggs, and where that came from for me as far as the sonics we tried to go with at the end of that song is Everclear. Well, it turns out a friend of mine, Stephen Wilson, who has wrote a bunch of stuff on this new record with me, he's friends with Art Alexakis, the lead singer and writer of Everclear. And I became friends with him through this. So he actually is a secret guest in the Just Friends video. And after that, I got to sing I Will Buy You a New Life with him because I told him that was a song that, for the most part, I was trying to just like channel that energy and that feeling. And it's just a wild song that I did not think they would let me put it on a record, but they did. And then I got to meet one of my idols through it. So, yeah, it's about a breakup. But the nice thing about this music is I get to try to make money and a good time from breakups. So,
It's funny, every time you break into song, your singing voice is so different to your speaking voice. It's like you're possessed or something.
if you know a good exorcist, let me know. No, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but when I sing, I do feel like I go somewhere else. One thing I absolutely hate about myself is when I'm really into a song, for some reason, I'll go to close my eyes, but I keep one eye slightly open. And when I'm in the moment, I am a conduit of the sound, and I'm so excited and I'm just in it and it feels great. Then I look at pictures of me and I'm like, Caylee, can you not just close both of your eyes? Just close them, Caylee. But I got to keep one eye out for Selena. That's an old, stupid reference.
Well, this will freak you out. I've been told, because I wouldn't know, apparently I sleep with my eyes open.
Wow. Yeah.
That's all you can say to that as well.
I'm sure that has creeped some people out on an airplane before.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. I'm just thinking about it, yeah. So tell me about recording Redhead with Reba and also, opening shows for her.
It was amazing. So I wrote Redhead for my older cousin, Jennifer. She was redheaded, and she lived in the single wide that my mom and daddy had when they were building our house back. And so I would run through the woods, and I'd lay on that shag carpet with her and drink Dr. Pepper and had a little teacup sets. And I wrote it in honor of her, not thinking we'd get to put it on the album. I'm not a very good judge of what songs are good or not. I just write the stuff I like. And the team liked it, and it was very funny. I try to tell people all the time that if you take anything from one of my interviews or my shows, I hope you take this. If you never ask, then the answer will forever, and it will always be no. Never in a million years did I think Reba McEntire would sing on this record, but my manager, Mary Hilliard, said, okay, now that we've got the songs together, we're about to put this album out. Who do you want to be a guest performer? And I automatically said Ashley McBryde and Neil Towns. These are two of my closest friends. I love them. They want to mean something in music, and I wanted them on the song, mean something on the album. And then Mary goes, perfect. Okay, who else? And I was like, well, and she was like, dream big. Dream as big as you can. Who do you want? And I said, I can't do Redhead without the queen of redheads. And I said, do you think that we could reach out to Reba? And she goes, well, we could try. And within a day, she wrote back and said, tell me what, verse to sing, and I'll sing it. And she's exactly how you think Reba would be. She has like that mixture of the warmth and the humbleness of Reba from the show. She's not playing a character. She is that person. But also, the beautiful thing about it is, from a businesswoman's point of view, she has this aura, this thing that her shoulders are wider and taller than her little tiny body is. She has this power when she walks into a room, mixed with the kindness that you see on shows. So, wow. Perfect woman.
I love particularly the version of Small Town Hypocrite with Stapleton.
Thank you.
How did that happen? I know you've opened shows for him.
That's another one that, if I hadn't asked, then we wouldn't have known. That was one good thing that came out of 2020. When I wrote the song in 2017, I got one of my friends to come in, and I gave him whiskey, and I said, go outside and scream some. And he was like, why? And I said, I need you to try to sound like Chris Stapleton, because I had a dream that Chris Stapleton sang on this song. And so I wrote a melody line, a harmony line underneath mine that I want him to sing. And so my friend Davis Nash came in, screamed, drank some liquor, and sang the part. Well, 2020 comes around, I get to release a song, and all of us are stuck at home wondering what to do with our lives. And it turns out that the Stapletons, Morgan and Chris, had heard the record, reached out to my management. They didn't have my number, and they just said, hey, we really like your girl. She's doing real good. And it's one of those things, man. I could have just said, thank you so much, but I just said, well, do you think you'd want to sing on that song? And it was pretty cool that Chris automatically said yes. And the only thing was, our team wanted us to make a radio version. And Chris didn't want to do a radio version because he told me, I have it in text and I screenshot it to remind myself. He said, don't ever let them take out the line, ain't that some shit. That's my favorite one. I don't know if you could say that on here. I'm sorry. You're going to have to bleep me out, Stuart. Sorry.
So you're originally from a small town called Ellaville in Georgia.
Yes.
And I believe this is quite close to Leesburg, where Luke Bryan's originally from.
Very much so.
And I love this story that you give his mother, LeClaire, a burnt CD of some of your songs. And then randomly, I think you were about 17, one day the house phone goes and Luke Bryan's calling.
Yes, I was pulling weeds in my mom and daddy's front yard, and I got a call on my phone, and I didn't know the Nashville area code yet. I answered the phone, and I don't know what it was that I was mad about that day, but I was just in a bad mood. And they answer, and I said, who is this? And he goes, this is Luke. Is this Caylee? And I went, yeah, Luke, I live in South Georgia. There's about 58 Lukes here. Which one are you? And he said, Luke Bryan. And I could have thrown my phone into the bushes at that point. But he was so kind to me, and he said, look, I think you need to move to Nashville. And I said, I think I need to build my fan base more first. I think I need to play the bars that you played and build a fan base the way you did before you moved to Nashville for like another year or two before I move. But I am going to move. And I'll never forget, he said, I don't know if you're real smart or real stupid for not listening to me, but I just hope you tell me when you come up to Nashville. And so getting to finally meet him, as a staff writer, getting to go to one of his shows at Bridgestone to meet him for the first time since that phone call. And then, 2-3 years later, I get to play Bridgestone Arena with him. It's one of the coolest full circles in the world. And I also love that backstage at award shows, I'll always hear, Ellaville, Georgia. And I just shout back, Leesburg. So
tell me about, sneaking into Honky Tonk Central on Broadway and how significant establishing a relationship with the late Greg Humphrey was.
Did you know Greg?
I never met him. I never had the honor, but, I know the story.
I think that sometimes when we get into music and you're doing music every single day or whatever job it is that you do, sometimes you don't realize the impact that you have on the younger people that you give a chance. And I had moved to Nashville. I was sleeping in my car, and it was cold. It was snowing. And I snuck into a bar, and I asked the band for me to sing. And the bass player said, well, it's $40 to sing. And I was snarky, and I said, well, I get paid to sing. I'm not paying to sing. Thank you. And I turned around, and I bumped into this man that he's the human-sized version of a garden gnome, almost. He always had a Ninja Turtle shirt on, long gray beard and kind eyes. And he said, well, where do you get paid to play? And I didn't know him from Adam. And I said, well, I play all over here. I start kind of telling him my resume. And he goes, all right, Jeb, let her up to sing. And so I got up there, and I'd look out into the crowd after every song, and he'd kind of do this lasso move with his hand, which in music just means one more, keep it coming. And at the end of it, he made me go pass around a tip jug, and that was, oh, wow. I had never done that before. I'd never had to sing and then have to go ask people with a bucket of coins and dollars in it and go, what did you think of my singing? So it very much humbled me, but it taught me a lot. And I remember what he said when I brought the jug back is he looked down in the bucket and he looked at me and he goes, you sing good and you talk slow. People like that. Do you need a job still? And I said, yes, please. And the first few shows that had other artists on, he gave me a cut out of his pocket because he knew that I needed to get a motel to shower and everything. And he was good to me, and he passed away and broke my heart, but it was a disconnect to get me out of the bars down there. I wanted to keep continuing because that was the one thing Greg wanted me to do too.
Having been to Nashville, and I know obviously Broadway, you're very much, if you're lucky enough to get a chance to sing in the bars, you're catering to the tourists and you're singing those big commercial hits, and they almost want you to replicate the way they hear the song on the radio. So how do you stand out as an individual?
That's a hard one. Honestly, I think that the biggest lesson I learned working a tourist circuit on Broadway for 2.5 years, playing those bars 4 to 8 hours a day, was I learned how to talk to people. You know, it doesn't matter if you sing every single song perfectly, if you stand silently in between the songs. You're not creating an open, warm, welcoming space for people to come in, and music is all about congregating together. And I had to learn how to talk to folks. I had to learn how to communicate with people from all over, where I used to just have to try to work a South Georgia crowd of the same folks that like the same music. I can't tell you how much I learned down there. And also, I've heard so many different accents, and that was one of the funnest parts of my job, was getting to walk around and go, Chicago, England maybe, North London, you know, and picking apart people's accents and just realizing that these people came from all over the world, and yet for some reason all of us are in this room that fits 75 people at Tootsie's, and I'm standing on a stage that's about the size of a love seat, and yet we're all sitting singing Patsy Cline or Johnny Cash together. Taught me a lot. It made me have a deeper reverence for country music and what it does.
You feature on a number of songs on Ashley McBryde's Lindyville project. Yeah. Just listening to it, it sounds like it was probably a lot of fun to make.
Oh, it was so much fun. Honestly, one of the funnest things I've ever done. One of the funnest projects I've ever done, because there was this freedom. We were all characters. I was Lynette. I was the owner of the diner and the strip club. And to explain to people, if you don't know what this is, go look up a writer named Dennis Lindy. He wrote Queen of My Double Wide Trailer for Sammy Kershaw. He wrote Goodbye Earl for the Chicks.
Burnin' Love.
Yep. He wrote Billy Bob Love Charlene, John Deere Green. But the cool thing is, people don't realize this. When he passed away, there was a piece of paper tacked up on the side of his studio wall, and it was a city. He had drawn a city out. And so the same Earl that is that second verse of Queen of My Double Wide Trailer, he rebuilds engines and his name is Earl. He's the Charlie Daniels of the torque wrench. That is the same Earl that then beats Wanda, and Marianne and Wanda have to kill in Goodbye Earl. This man created a town of characters and gave them so much life that those songs live forever. Ashley went into the room with a bunch of our friends, went off actually into a cabin for about 2 weeks, and wrote an entire town of a cast of characters, specifically of strong women. And she invited me, her and John Osborne, to come sing and be one of those characters. And I got to bring my little dog, and her name was Cranky Doodle in the set, and she had to be in a Vera Bradley on Lynette's arm. And it just gave me this freedom, you know, to attack the songs with this tenacity that, you know, only Lynette could do. And getting to play the rhyming with Ashley, and Brenda Put Your Bra On comes on, and women are throwing bras on stage. I mean, as a female artist, they ain't ever done that for me. So I felt very special, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, gosh mighty.
And just very finally, you know, you have opened for Dierks Bentley, Miranda Lambert, Eric Church, Trisha Yearwood, Brad Paisley. What have you taken away from those experiences?
The one thing I've taken away, other than how grateful I am country music, I haven't met an artist I didn't like yet. One thing I've noticed is it trickles down. You go and you work with certain teams, and by teams I mean a lot of people don't realize, but it takes, you know, 50 to 100 people to put these shows on. So if you're out there and you love country music, but say you don't play it or you don't write it, you can always be rolling gear and be at every single show ever with no expertise. You can always be there and part of that magic. So really, it's just there's so many different facets. Even there's carpenters that come out onto the road and have to rebuild and woodwork around these stages to make it fit every night so that we're secure on stage. What I'm trying to say is the camps are just as important as the artist. So if you want to get into music, do it. But one thing I've noticed is the best camps are normally led by the best artist. And I think that's the same as any business or industry. If the boss is a good man or good woman, then the folks around them, they're probably going to surround themselves with great people. And I've truly been blessed. I mean, every single crew I've worked with, I have felt some significant connection to at least some of them. And I'm just blessed, man. I don't know how else to say it.
Caylee, I could talk to you all day. You're so engaging and you're such a character, but I know you've got to hit the stage, but thanks for your time.
No, thank you. I got to go curl my hair. So if it doesn't look too good, don't judge me tonight.